watching Gearz.
You know, it goes without saying that our economy has been pretty rough over the last few years. And nobody has felt that more than the new car manufacturers, because people just aren't buying new cars and trucks like they used to. And part of the main reason for that is they're not building the stuff we want. And when they do build the stuff we want, it's too expensive. Now, to help solve this problem, we approached Ford, Chevy, and Dodge a while back to try to convince them to come out with a base muscle car that anybody can afford. We're talking something with roll-up windows and V8 power and a cheap price tag and a seriously bad attitude. I mean, something like Plymouth did in '68 with the Roadrunner. Unfortunately, all the manufacturers shot that idea down. It seems they want to keep the profit margin as high as possible on those muscle cars, which takes us back to the original problem. So we got to thinking, if we can't do it with a car, maybe we could do it with a truck. So we called up the guys at Chrysler and hooked up with the Ram truck division. Fortunately, the guys at Ram are real gearheads like you and I, and they had been secretly developing a truck that was going to be fast and cool. And we all agreed that it also needed to be cheaper than any V8 powered car or truck on the market. And it needed to be something that a guy could modify and tweak on and make his own. The result? The Ram 1500 Express. Yeah, you heard right. The Express is back. But the new Ram Express is a lot different than the little red Express from the '70s. Oh, it's a regular cab short bed like the original, and has a V8 like the original. But the new Express is packing a 390 horse Hemi that pulls down 20 miles to the gallon and comes with dual exhaust and 20-inch wheels too. Comments? Yeah, smoking. However, the really big news is the price tag. As you can see, the base price of the new Express is $23,800, which is a bargain in itself. But if you add the dealer incentives of $1,000 off here, $1,000 off here for trade-in, you can drive one of these things off the lot for a little over $21,000. Now, to give you some perspective, a base V8 Challenger, Camaro, or Mustang is going to run you right at $30,000. That's almost a $10,000 difference. That is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of bargain that Americans need to help us get back on our feet. But it gets better than just this. Mopar's got over 300 accessories for this vehicle, and there's a huge aftermarket out there, so you can take one of these things and build it into exactly what you want it to be. So we're going to show you the incredible potential of a truck like this, and at the same time give all those high-dollar muscle cars a serious run for their money. Okay, the first thing that we're going to focus on is the exterior of this truck. Try to give it a little more muscle car vibe. So we need to get a cool hood on here. And fortunately, there's a lot of choices out there in the aftermarket, from fiberglass to steel. We wanted a steel hood. So we went to Mopar and got this all-steel performance hood. As you can see, it's not only steel on the outside, but it also has a complete metal inner structure just like the original hood. But the best part is, it's got this power bulge here with twin scoops just like the Challenger. Unfortunately, just like the Challenger, the scoops are fake, and we don't like that. What's the purpose of having scoops if they're fake? So what we did is take the inserts, cut out the blank, and take some screen, fabricate a screen, and then glued it in with some JB Weld, and with just a little bit of time, you have a fully functional hood scoop. Now, obviously, this hood doesn't come completely painted. They come in primer, and even though they're new, they could use a little bit of body work. So we shipped this one off to the guys at Milestone Custom Paint and Body, and had them work a little magic on it to get it nice and smooth. Then we hooked up with Color Match and had him mix up a batch of the factory red color, and Milestone shot it on the hood. Now, since this hood has a great shape to it, we wanted to try to bring out some of those contours. So we had Milestone paint some black accents on the hood, and as you can see, they look really cool. If you're needing some paint or quality restoration work done, check them out at milestonepaint.com. All right, installing the new hood is just a matter of unbolting the stock one, transferring all the hardware to the new hood, and bolting it in place. Yeah, what a difference that makes. And unlike our Challenger brethren, our hood scoops are functional. Now, with its monochromatic paint scheme, there's not a whole lot of polish on this truck, but there are some places where it could use some, like this old school gas filler door with its finger dent to open it. Fortunately, Mopar has got a chrome door that bolts right in place of this stalker and is very similar to what's on the new Challenger.
When Stacey David makes house calls in the big Gearz Nation truck, it makes for some pretty special moments. But if they can't come to your garage, the next best thing to do is check out the stuff they have online to help you out. Things like DVDs, wiring and build books, apparel and fender covers are just some of the things you'll find to help you with your project or make a great gift for that certain car nut in your life. If you're ready to get out there, build something, and then go smoke the tires on it, StaceyDavid.com can help you do that.
Welcome back to Gearz and the introduction of the Ram 1500 Express. Now, the idea here was to get a Hemi-powered truck into the hands of enthusiasts for just a hair over $20,000. And what you're looking at is the very first one. But by the time you see this show, you're going to be able to trot down to your local dealership and bag one of these things yourself. Now, the idea behind the Express is not just an affordable truck with 390 horsepower, although that's really nice. No, it's also to supply the enthusiasts with the proper canvas so they can modify it and tweak on it and make it exactly what they want it to be. Definitely a modern take on the old Roadrunner idea. Of course, one of the benefits to having a truck is you've got a bed to carry stuff in. One of the drawbacks, though, is you toss things in the bed and it rolls around when you're driving down the road. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to control that and utilize this space a little better? Well, you can, and we're going to show you how. Okay, the first thing that you're going to need is some sort of a bed liner. Instead of going with the typical drop-in plastic bed liner, we're going with this thing called the bed rug. Now, this not only protects your bed, but it's also waterproof, and it's got a thick pad underneath that fits right into the grooves of the bed so you don't bust your knees up when you crawl around on it. Now, it also has a flap that goes clear back onto the tailgate, and you've got this area here that allows you to close the tailgate. The best part is the bed rug is custom made for your bed, so it literally just drops in place and seals under the bed sides, around the wheel wells, and everywhere else. So it basically fits your bed like a glove. Simple Velcro strips hold it in place so you can remove it whenever you want. As you can see, the bed rug will completely change the way that you'll be able to use your bed. There might even be those that try to convince you to let them ride back here. The answer is still no. Come on, boy, let's go. Now, like I said before, one of the biggest problems that you're going to face with your bed is that your cargo is going to want to roll all over the place. And all cargo is not created equal. Carrying a bike or a surfboard is a lot different than carrying boxes and bags. But there is a way to handle it all, and that's with this simple racking system. Using the supplied template, drill your holes and mount the threaded inserts. Then, with a few holes punched in the bed rug, you'll be able to quickly mount the rails to the bed sides. Now, if you need to haul some big pieces like a hood, adjustable crossbars slide right into the rails. If you want to carry a bike, a special mount slides right in place to keep your bikes from banging against the side of the bed. Need to carry boxes or bags? You can also get this divider that mounts anywhere on the rails to keep things from rolling around or allows you to keep things separated from each other. The best part is when you don't need the rails, everything comes off in just a couple of minutes. Hey, Domino, what are you doing?
If you've got a cool project and would like to show millions of other gearheads what you're working on, you need to join Gearz Nation. This is a free, interactive online community of auto enthusiasts that will allow you to learn from, share with, and encourage others, and at the same time, show off your project. There are also premium memberships available for access to special merchandise and the entire Gearz catalog. If you're into mechanical things, you're welcome on Gearz Nation. And who knows, you might even see your project on TV.
Hey, you're watching Gearz and the introduction of Ram's new hot rod truck for the masses, the Hemi-powered Express. The idea? To supply a short bed, regular cab, V8 powered truck for cheap money that a guy can then take and modify and make his own. Now, we've already put a lot of really cool stuff on this rig, from a custom hood to bed accessories to a bed rug. Now we're gonna do something to protect our investment back here. Because even though the bed rug is waterproof, you really don't want it sitting out in the weather all the time. And it's nice to be able to lock up the junk in your bed. And the only way to do that is with some sort of a tonneau cover. For this project, we definitely wanted something versatile. So we got this tri-fold tonneau cover from Mopar. Now this thing features a metal frame. It's got this heavy-duty canvas type material attached to it, and the frame folds into 3 separate sections. So you can fold the cover up when you want to carry big cargo and you don't have to take off the tonneau cover. Then of course when you want to lock everything up, you just seal it down. So we have a lockable cover that looks good. It folds up in sections or completely removes in just a few seconds and is the perfect way to finish off a bed that you intend to use. Now at this point, I know there's some of you guys that are probably thinking, you know, that is a good looking truck, but I wouldn't call this a high performance vehicle. That's because you haven't quite realized the incredible potential of a package like this. I mean, there's things in the aftermarket that can take a hot little express truck like this and turn it into something like a fire-breathing dragon wagon, which is exactly what we're gonna do, but not today. You gotta wait for another show for that.
Now, quick tip, brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn.
You know, one project that every gearhead has to deal with from time to time is replacing carpet. Fortunately, there are some tips and tricks that will make the job quicker and easier for you. First off, a pair of scissors is not the best way to cut carpet because, first of all, it's going to damage the top of the pad when you cut it. It's hard to make accurate cuts, and it won't even go through most carpeting. No, the best way to cut carpeting is with a razor knife from the bottom. This will allow you to make pinpoint accurate cuts without destroying the pile on top. Yeah, see how simple and clean that is? Now, if you need to make a small hole in the carpet, generally all you have to do to pull that off is just a small X pattern on the back side, And there you have it. If you need to do a bigger hole, obviously you'll need to cut it, but once again, that's easy to do from the back side. Now, under no circumstances should you ever try to drill a carpet, because it'll wind all around that drill and you'll make a bigger mess than you've ever seen in your life, and you will destroy the carpet. If you would like to learn more tips that will make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
When Stacey David makes house calls in the big Gearz Nation truck, it makes for some pretty special moments. But if they can't come to your garage, the next best thing to do is check out the stuff they have online to help you out. Things like DVDs, wiring and build books, apparel and fender covers are just some of the things you'll find to help you with your project or make a great gift for that certain car nut in your life. If you're ready to get out there, build something, and then go smoke the tires on it, StaceyDavid.com can help you do that. Fuel Tech, brought to you by Holly, #1 in fuel systems for over 100 years.
You know, one area that's really easy to overlook on a project is the fuel system, because it's not as impressive as a big fancy engine, not as cool as a killer suspension, but it is every bit as important. And it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of time and money on a project just to see it stranded or burning on the side of the road because you overlooked the fuel system. Now, fuel system's a lot more than just a carburetor or fuel injection. Oh, it's the regulator, it's the lines, it's the filters, it's all that stuff. And it all needs to be maintained and checked from time to time, whether you drive the vehicle or it sits in the garage. So, starting at the back, we are going to work our way forward and show you some of the things that you can do so you can upgrade or maintain your fuel system and keep it working properly. Okay, the gas tank is first. And remember, if your vehicle hasn't run in a few years, you really need to take the tank out and have it boiled out and get rid of all the sludge and the varnish inside of it. Just sticking a bunch of new gas in there and going on a road trip is not going to solve the problem. Matter of fact, it's going to make it worse because you don't want all that junk going through your fuel system. Also, tanks can look good on the outside, but be rusting from the inside out. Oh, that's awful. And that will continue to clog fuel lines and ruin fuel pumps and filters. I've never seen one that bad. And with so many quality replacement or custom tanks on the market, there is no reason to mess around with an old tank once it starts to rust inside. The rubber fuel lines are next. And as we've said before, these deteriorate over time, so it's a good idea to replace them every couple of years, whether they look good or not. Now, of course, braided stainless steel hose will obviously last much longer, but they should also be checked periodically for leaks, especially if you're using ethanol-based fuels that can eat rubber. The hard fuel lines, just like the gas tank, can rust on the inside as well as the outside. You can pretty much bet that if your gas tank was full of rust and crud, your hard lines probably are too. Fortunately, all you have to do is go down to your auto parts store, pick up some replacement line, use the original piece as a pattern, bend you up a new line. Now, when you go to mount the lines, make sure that you use some sort of clamping system like this to hold them in place. As you can see, Earl's Performance Plumbing has a couple of different choices that are far superior to this old clamping system. And although it may be tempting, a rubber fuel line should never be wire tied to electrical wires for obvious reasons. Now, most people realize that you need to clean or replace your fuel filter from time to time, whether you're using the cheap disposable style filter or the more expensive reusable style filter. But you should also not rely on just one filter to keep everything clean. A pre-filter before the fuel pump and a secondary filter after the fuel pump is the best way to keep the trash out of your carburetor or injectors. Another place you can get corrosion is in the carburetor itself. There you go. Get a spider in there. Especially if the engine sits for long periods of time without running. The fuel turns to varnish, the rubber deteriorates, and the metal corrodes, and any of these will give you a crappy running engine. The only solution is to either rebuild the car or replace it. Also, using a fuel stabilizer when you store the vehicle will go a long way to help prevent this from happening. Now, obviously, safety is extremely important when you're messing with the fuel system, because it's the vapors that ignite and burn. And most people know the basics of having plenty of ventilation in their shop and not smoking or causing sparks. But when they're out on the road, most people are not prepared for a fuel system fire. And that's where carrying a small fire extinguisher in the vehicle can make all the difference. The cool thing is, once you've gone through the fuel system, you don't have to mess with it anymore, which means you can turn your attention to other things, like trying to figure out how to drive your new project. You know, one of the first true freedoms you experience as a kid is that first bicycle. Man, it becomes your transportation to the world, or at least the local neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, man, we all had bikes. And we'd stick playing cards in the spokes, and we'd suck on black licorice, make it look like we were big biker dudes. And it was magic. But a bike wasn't just about transportation. No, it became an extension of your personality. And there were all kinds of bikes out there. There were 10 speeds, there were mountain bikes, there were Stingrays, there were BMX bikes, and they all had their strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the idea for the story of the purple bicycle came from. Because just like a bike might wish it had the talents or skills of another bike, so do we sometimes overlook our God-given talents and wish we had somebody else's talents, skills, color, abilities because they seem to be better than ours. It's a simple story. It's a simple lesson, but something we all need to be reminded of from time to time.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Air Raid, American-made quality and performance since 1992.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from a Larry Siglin from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And his project is unique in that it's a 1991 Chevy Silverado pickup that he bought brand new in 1991 and then started driving it every day. And over the next 20-some-odd years, put over 200,000 miles on it. Here's a shot of it. You can see it's starting to get kind of worn out. But instead of turning it in for that cash for clunkers mess, he decided that he was going to keep it, rebuild it, and save himself some money. So he ordered himself some parts, tore it apart in his driveway, and started working on it. Yeah. From there, it went to paint, and then they smoothed out all the door dings and the rock chips, shot on some new paint, and then it came back to Larry, and he started putting it back together. Now, as you can see from this picture, he put on new tail lights, new headlights, bumpers, trim, all kinds of stuff to make this truck look like new. And when he was finally finished with it, check it out here. He's got a 91 pickup that looks new, it runs well, and he's only got $5,700 in it. It looks like Larry has figured out his own way to stimulate the economy. So, Larry, to help you out, we hooked up with our buddies at Air Raid, and they are going to give you an air intake system for that truck or whatever else you're working on. Basically, you get to go through their catalog and pick out whatever product you want, and they're going to ship it to you. Yeah. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this, you have got to send your project in to StaceyDavid.com. Go to the What Are You Working On section. Let us see what you got. We'll do the best that we can to get it on the air. All right, you know what we're working on. Now it's time for you to get out there, start working on something. What are you doing?